Afternoon.
And welcome to the Suffolk-Nansemond Historical Society. My name is Jackie. I'm the director here. Our archivist is in the back, Deborah. And one of our, where's Caitlin? Siobhan's here. She's one of our volunteers. We have volunteers on Tuesdays. If you're ever interested, we would love to have you visit us. Today our speaker is, well, let me actually introduce Draven also. Sorry, Draven from the Downtown Library is here. We do these afternoon conversations in conjunction with Suffolk Public Libraries, which is excellent, getting people here and learning about all of the great history in this area and other things. So today our speaker is Lex Musta, an amateur historian who is very interested in common histories. So today we are going to be learning about the common history we share in Suffolk. And he used a phrase that I forgot what it was.
Human amity worker.
There we go. Human amity worker.
Yeah.
So please welcome Lex Musta.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie, and thank you for welcoming me here, and thanks for the tour we had of this beautiful building. You, by stepping and joining me here today, this is my first time ever visiting this city, is that you've also stepped into their history. Today we're participating in history, so that's why I want to begin by going around the room and just give me your name and a headline of why you're in Suffolk, why you belong. Because the reason we're doing this is because even though these three stories we're going to share today are from the past, they're human just like you. Their thoughts and feelings and emotions are just like yours. They're not antique statues. They have the same feelings. And it's important to ground yourself in real feelings so you don't think about these things as something like a museum exhibit. They're just like you. And so my name is Lex, and my headline is, I moved to this area to be by my wife's family. So we'll start with Emma in the back, and then we'll work our way to the front.
Okay, well, not to mirror you, but...
you can mirror me.
My name is Emma, and I moved to this area to be near my husband's family.
Very good.
Yeah, I live here because my dad really wanted to fly jets with the Marines.
Very cool. And what's your name?
Daniel, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Debbie, and I'm here because of the Air Force.
There we go.
My name is Siobhan. I'm here because this is where my husband's job took the family.
Yes.
My name is Randy, and I was born here.
Wonderful.
Let's get rolling here.
Yeah.
My name is Draven. I moved here after my parents moved here while I was in college.
You're starting to see certain patterns if you're listening carefully here. Why are you here?
My name is Abigail, and I'm here because my parents moved.
My name is Leslie, and I'm here because of my grandma.
Wonderful.
And my name is Sarah, and I'm here because my husband's job brought us here. And now I live in Chesapeake.
I'm Jasmine, and I live here with my parents.
Wonderful.
Autumn, I was born and raised here.
I'm Sierra, and I moved here with my parents because my dad had a name.
And like Keith and Mary, my name's Ivan, and I'm here because of my wife's family as well.
Wonderful.
I'm Jessie, and I'm born and raised Virgin Beach, this area.
And finally, Jack, even I know the answer.
I'm here because we bought an old house in downtown, and it was the only house out of 4 that actually worked to purchase. So all the other ones fell through for whatever reason.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here, part of the history of this. Because that's, people came here for jobs, people came here because so their parents chose to come here. They never chose to come here. And each of these stories is going to be about belonging. But the reason we're covering these stories is because I want to show that we have a common history. History is often told from a very particular lane. But history doesn't work like that. History is a common history. And my hope is that all of us can move forward together, that it inspires us to move forward. We were just talking about South Africa because we have this wonderful group of South Africans visiting us. And they were describing how even though apartheid has ended, they're still leaving segregated existences. And so that makes you think, going, but wait a second. If they knew a common history, could they come forward together and not feel that we're so separate. So that's what I hope we get from today. So we're going to start with something fairly familiar. First of all, the prize. Who can name this fruit? Come on, it's from here. It's native to here. Suffolkans. I'm a little disappointed. What's that? No. All right. This is native to here. And if you remember, what month did the British arrive into this area? Anyone remember? In the spring. So by the fall, they had already started trading with the Nansemond and other indigenous people. So by the fall, these were being harvested and dried, because you harvest them at the first frost. My mother-in-law's uncle gave me a precious story about this fruit. He said, he showed me the stump. All they had left was the stump. He said, earlier when I was a kid, my mother, Grandma Green, would harvest it after the first frost. This fruit tasted especially great at first frost. It's persimmon. Persimmon, hi Nancy, to understand why we call it persimmon is that we all are speaking an Algonquian word. We're literally speaking Nansemond tongue. Because to understand Algonquian, it's a contextual language. So you don't say orange or pineapple, you say dried fruit. Because you're living here, because it's the fall, you know it's this fruit. So the British person said, oh, they're all calling it persimmon. I guess this thing is persimmon. To this day, we say that word, but we're really saying the word dried fruit. You see, so by learning a common history, we're literally in your mouths are words from the Nansemond. From 400 years ago, you think, oh my gosh, they don't exist in my world. What do you mean? You can go to the grocery store and pick it up today. This is native to this area. And you dry it, of course, for the winter, to have fruit all winter. So this is how we're going to start off with the people who are the original inhabitants of Suffolk, the Nansemond. So the first vision the English got of the Nansemond, they're coming up the river. Has anyone ever sailed without a motor? It's amazing. You should one time just try it so you get that 1607 or 1608 feel. I've gone up some of these rivers, you hit sandbanks, you got to get out and push your boat off sandbank, all kinds of stuff happens, but there's no motor. You're like, what a second, I'm moving without a motor? It's amazing. So they're coming up the island, and he comes upon the capital of the Nansemond. And he knows Dover, he knows England. Have anyone seen Dover in England? Big white cliffs. So he goes, this is a chalk island, because he's making a reference from his England. But it was actually clams. In Maine, this is a state park in Maine, so you can imagine what he was seeing. These are clam discarding. You've been eating clams for hundreds of years, and they pile up on the shore. Here's an excavation that took place on what we now call Dumpling Island. Just clams, 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 clams. So what he was calling Chalk Island was a pile of clams, as he saw. And he said he saw corn everywhere. Corn had been here by that time for 600 years. That's 18 generations. I bet none of you know your 18th generation grandparent. So for anyone who lived here in 1607, they would say, we've had corn forever. And why was corn, which was introduced by the Cherokee to this area, why was it the defining technology of the 1000 AD? Any idea what's so amazing about corn versus earlier fruit and vegetables? It can be stored. It can be stored. That's how the Aztecs became so powerful. And all their faith, all their religion was about the harvesting and the planting of corn. So that's why on mountains and on high things you'd have these corn stores. And that's why you'd have guards there. So you'd need military. And these corn cultures became so powerful they took over, including Suffolk. And here's their capital city where they had their cemetery, where all their kings were buried. This is where they had their corn stores. Smith saw instantly that's a convenient fort because you have the river branching on both sides, same as the Rassawick, the capital of the Monaccans, over to the west of here. It was a great place. So the British, as you know, they came here with no farmers because they were just going to grab all the gold. No farmers, starving time. They entered their starving time before anything the Indigenous did. They themselves were incompetent. And so they came here to take the corn. and they attacked with 60 soldiers. How many soldiers did they have in Jamestown? 60. Their whole army, the whole army of Jamestown, came to Suffolk to attack and get corn. Now, after seeing this destruction of a cemetery, as you know, it's a felony in America to disturb a cemetery. They took bracelets off them. They so rude, such not nice guests, that Powhatan, the chief, recognized they're not here to just be another tribe in my confederacy. They're here for something else. So right away, the Nansemond attacked them, killed 30 of those 60 soldiers. The soldiers retreated, and Powhatan put on a blockade. No trading, no support of the English. But it's from Suffolk, Virginia, that we had this whole event. This event took place here, the Catalyst event. And then that led to, here's a description of it. This is an English description, so you know I'm not exaggerating. This is not a Nansemond historian. The English themselves said, "We ransacked their temples, took the corpses of their dead kings from their tombs, carried away their pearls, copper bracelets." You know, absolutely unacceptable behavior, not a nice neighbor. And then we entered the starving time. You know, it was already a starving time. Now it's a real starving time. And this led to the greatest military victory of the Sinakamoco Confederacy in U.S. history, right here in Suffolk. They defeated every last Englishman left. In June 10th, 1610, we had a complete military victory. But nobody celebrates it like that. It's the greatest victory. All of your enemy was vanquished. Every last one got on a boat, never to be seen again. We can't win here. So this was an incredible moment that Suffolk should celebrate. The location of the greatest military victory. Everyone talks about whatever that bull is, Bull Run or somewhere, where Custer got killed. That wasn't a victory, that was a battle. This was a victory. The enemy vanquished. Nansemond saved. These people were not behaving nice. They desecrated our funeral, our capital city. Done. Unfortunately, we don't live in a vacuum. Who knows this gentleman? Anybody? Humphrey Gilbert, the founder of Total War against the Irish in 1570. He was knighted by the Queen. He realized, fighting the Irish, far from here, but it affected us here. He kills every man, woman, child, burned the villages, starved the people. Absolute total warfare. He codified it and wrote it down. Who was his student? Who's this? You probably know him. He lived very close to here, Thomas West. You know him as Lord Delaware. Delaware is named after him, the whole state. He was a student of Mr. Gilbert. He mastered total war, also versus the Irish. He did so well, the London Company took notice of him. New orders. No more trading. No more being nice. I want total war. And he came, and Mr. Sidney King painted this for the National Park Service in 1950. And just as those ships were leaving in defeat, Mr. Delaware came, Mr. Thomas West came and said, "Turn it around, people. We're not going anywhere. We're going to do total war." And there's a group of neighbors of the Nansemond who were the unfortunate showpiece of this new strategy. The Bass-Nansemond Nation, every man, woman, and child was killed for the first time. So Powhatan was not silly. He saw this guy was new. This is not the same group who was here earlier, who I vanquished and won. So we entered the piece of Pocahontas. This is the only painting painted by someone who was sitting with Pocahontas in front of her. So it might not be the truest representation, but it's the only one but done by an artist who actually was sitting there with Pocahontas. He married his daughter, as was the Indigenous custom, to the other tribe, the other nation, for peace. And this is known as the Peace of Pocahontas from 1614 onwards. Right? Let's stop this total war. You've made your point. Let's have peace, marry my daughter. And a little peace came in this area. But then something else happened. Next wave of people. We're in the 1620s. That's why I put up the brick here. We're sitting on bricks. Brick making came to Virginia in the 1620s. That's the word brick. is a word we all use. That's from England. They were making it. And here we are on bricks ourselves. And these families came, and we could call them the first settlers of Suffolk, because they came further upriver, up to the Isle of Wight, which is just north of here. And I want to tell you about this one family that came here. They started here. I don't know if anyone's visited London. Anybody? There used to be a wall going all around London, built by the Romans, ancient wall. It was still standing, and this is St. Helen's Church, just by Bishopsgate. In that wall, it had a certain number of gates. And in 1610, when this Bennet family was coming here, when the Bass family was coming here, Humphrey Bass was here. He baptized a son, John Bass, a grandson, John Bass, here. And he invested in that same company that sent Lord Delaware here. And he got himself a nice acreage up at the top of Isle of Wight, right about here. And it's called Bass's Choice. And so he built this place here, and you can see some archaeology happening here. It's along the shore of the James River, a little cliff, beautiful place. Nathaniel Bass, the son of Humphrey, the guy who was in that church, he came here, and it's a beautiful place. He likes it. He sells up, he calls it Bass's Choice, gives it a name. Not Monticello, his place was Bass's Choice. Everyone gives it a name. And he says, this place is good. As you've seen, it's like driving here, you just have farm ground everywhere. It's not like my side. I come from Powhatan, where it's clay. Here it's all beautiful soil, everything grows. So he brings that little boy who was baptized, 6 years old. So, as a father, you're quite confident. You bring this little 6-year-old and family over to this place overlooking the river, beautiful place. Unfortunately, it's 1621, and the peace of Pocahontas, his father is dead. The one who made that deal is gone. His son, Opikankano, is like, there's now 1,000 of them. Maybe I can do like my dad did. Waits for Good Friday, 1622. As you can see by the official history written by Captain John Smith, they came with deer, turkeys, fruit, fish, fruit, and other provisions on Good Friday. And so everyone's eating on Good Friday. Everyone goes to sleep on Good Friday. And they wake up and kill 350 of the 1,000. So this was a second attempt by the Sinokomoko Confederacy to drive out the English. And look who they specifically mentioned. Lieutenant Bass's house. It's in the official record. It got attacked. And the Indigenous had learned already back in 1608 that it's very useful to get English children and adopt them and bring them in. One of the English people who committed the first treason who in the colony was somebody who was raised in this way. Because once you're raised with them, you actually love them and see their humanity. They're no longer declared in the Declaration of Independence as savages. It's this person over here. And so John Bass, while many of the family was killed, he was 6 years old. They took him away. What a great translator. 6-year-olds already speak English. Let me teach him Nansemond. And he became fully immersed. So did his brother Edward. Where do we surface them again in the historical record? This was 1622. Let's zoom ahead 16 years. He's now 22, marriage age. Here's the official record. He married the daughter of the chief of the Nansemond. Right? That's the Indigenous way here. The Algonquians know how to make peace. Marry your chiefs, intermarry with families. Elizabeth marries John Bass. And Edward, his brother, marries Mary Tucker, another Indigenous woman. So you got two brothers from this Humphrey family, Humphrey Bass family, who were French, who moved to London. This family is quite adept at navigating new cultures, new places. They were Huguenot French who moved to London, became very successful merchants, bought into the London Company, got last Bass's Choice, and now here they are married. So you now have John Bass married into this family, the chief of the Nansemond. And Suffolk's up there, the Dismal Swamp is here, and Edward, the brother, moves down to live over here. So a group of the Bass family is now south. You know, you can see they mentioned the Nansemond Indigenous Nation are over here. They've also moved out of this area. Pressures are growing. But the Bass family is still here. John Bass was still alive, and the Nansemond were one of the 5 nations who signed the Treaty of Middle Plantation. Middle Plantation is the name for Williamsburg. We now call it Colonial Williamsburg. But then it was the middle. You can't think of Williamsburg as the middle anymore. It's way here on the East Coast. But at one time it was the Treaty of Middle Plantation. And Kokokosi, she had also married an English man. She was the chief of the Pamunkey. She married Thomas West's grandson. Remember Lord Delaware? She's like, I see which way this world goes. Let me also marry Mrs. West's grandson so we can advance together. And she signs this declaration, and the king of the Nansemond, we don't know who it was, we don't have the name, but John Bass is alive at this time, helping guide. 5 nations were smart. It was so important to sign this declaration because that established your nation with a reservation, with treaty rights, and so on. Very important. Look what John Bass's children do. So his grandsons moved like his brother did, south of the Dismal Swamp, over to here. They're being pushed away, get further away from the English, where you have a little more room, so that they move down there. But not all of them. John stayed in this area. And look what he did in 1726. This is 50 years after the Treaty of Middle Plantation. He goes, let me put it on court record that me and my kinsmen are English and Nansemond. He put that on court record. So nobody could ever doubt, nobody could ever say, you're not Nansemond or you're not English. He put it on court record. And what do you think his son did? Same thing, 1742. You're seeing a system of somebody who's in both worlds. Can say, I think it's going to be important one day for me to know that we're numbered as Nansemond. I want that on record. So they did that. And you're seeing generation after generation contributing. And then what does his grandson, second great-grandson do? Again, they're making a record through time. We're now in 1797. And then Chief James Michael Bass, his 4th great-grandson, donates 8 acres of his land in this area to the First Church, a Methodist mission to the Nansemond. So he goes, we need a church. Let me give my land. So this Bass family from England is now a collaborative effort between English wealth and knowledge and ideas of how the things work here, together with the Nansemond culture, and they found their church here. And then his son, Chief Jesse Lindsay Bass, gives some of the same land to build a school. Here's our first pictures, by the way, of the Bass family. This is the oldest picture we have. Jeff and his brother Augustus. Augustus is here and here. So I thought it's cool. We finally get to see a picture. What do these Bass people look like? Oh my goodness. They look like that and like that. So they then found the school in 1897. So here we are in Suffolk. The school's right over here. So the Bass property was close by. And here's their school. They now got a school going. They're taking care of the people. The same Bass family. 6th generation grandson of John Bass. He now gets state recognition in 1985. We're now recognized by state. We get additional rights. This all goes back to the Treaty of Middle Plantation, and now we're recognized by the state. Then we get federal recognition, 2018. And just 2 years ago, they got 71 acres back from the city of Suffolk. Right here where you are. They gave back 71 acres to the original inhabitants. This city is amazing. Nobody does that. And then look at how the Bass family continues. Here's Nikki Bass returning those oysters. Remember Captain Smith's oysters? Here she is. The nation is bringing the oysters back to the river. She's here at this event. Look how happy she is. And then she's serving the whole nation to do what they did. She is now the director of federal acknowledgement, federally, helping all nations do what the Nansemond did. Get your federal recognition. Stand forward. So look at this Bass history we've just seen. Right? It's not fitting into your neat lanes. It's an immersive, combined history. And now I'll just share one final story. Everywhere I go in this town, I've been seeing this planter's peanut thing. What did they call the peanut here in this town in 1920 and before? It wasn't peanut. Yes! Who knows the song from the Civil War, the famous ditty, the Goober Bean Ditty? Goober, goober, goober pea. It's a whole song. You can watch it on YouTube. And just like you said a Nansemond word, you are all saying a word from the Kingdom of Congo. Naguba bean. This was brought over to us. And I say that to show that we also have, hiding in plain sight, our common African history here in Suffolk. We love this thing. We can't put enough of these up in town. But wait a second. We got to pay attention to where it came from. This is an African story. In fact, it's a beautiful African story because you already know about Bass's choice. But do you know his neighbor, Bennett? It's right next door. Like, I'm not making this up. This is next door. You can look it up. Next door was a future governor of Virginia, Robert Bennett. Richard Bennett, another investor in the London Company, mayor of London. He sends, two of his sons down here. And Bennett's welcome came here. What do you think happened to Bennett's welcome in 1622? Any guesses? They were attacked. Because if this one was wiped out, this one was wiped out. But who did the Nansemond spare at Bennett's choice? Anthony Johnson. First documented person from the Kingdom of Congo to be a landowner in Virginia. First person from the Kingdom of Congo in U.S. history to win in the court of law versus Englishmen 3 times. He was an indentured servant on Bennett's welcome. He wasn't a slave. He was an indentured servant like everybody else at that time. After his 8 years, he was free. He got 250 acres. And who is this person? Why do I compare him to Anthony Johnson? It's not Anthony Johnson. This is Antonio Emmanuel de Vunda, the king of Congo, which if you don't know where it is, it's right here. He sent his ambassador to the Vatican, and the Vatican was so honored to have him that they literally, you can go visit his shrine in the Vatican today, and there's a statue of him. That was from 1608. So Anthony Johnson looked something like his ambassador. So how many people in Suffolk know one of the first African descent landowners is from the Kingdom of Congo, which is where we get the word goober bean from. We all have in our mouth in this city, everyone would have been saying an African word, ignorant to our common history, at our own detriment. And I say that, I bring up this notion of landowner, I want to talk about another landowner in Suffolk. So we've talked about these 2 plantations, you're going to know them pretty well. Mr. Bennett had, I guess, what would you call somebody who's just kind of a playboy, I guess, from the 1620s. He was in college for a year, dropped out. Hey, isn't my whole family getting rich in America? Hey, king, give me some. I'm a rich person. 1,050 acres for you. He opens, Ambrose Bennett opens up his thing just south, right? He's just south of here. Not yet in Suffolk, but we're moving downriver, right? The best land is gone. You're kind of coming down the river, so he's a little bit not as good. We're working towards here. And Ambrose gets there, but what do you think this playboy felt about U.S. life?
Too hard.
Too hard. He wants to go back to the good life. He goes back to London. But he brought somebody as an indentured servant, just like Anthony Johnson, no different, named Hopkins Howell. And he goes, hey, I'm done here. And I don't know what he gave everybody else, but he gave this guy 50 of those 1,050 acres. So Hopkins Howell, just an impoverished Englishman, but now he's got 50 acres. And his son, John Howell, they sold off the land up there, the 50 acres here. But Hopkins Howell got 600 other acres. of which 100 went to his son John Howell down here, closer to Suffolk. The Howell family is moving south. And as you can see, he's on record at getting this land in 1673. And then his son, the grandson of Hopkins, gets the land in 1694, kept the same land. So this Howell family is now learning the ways of English. Get land, bring over people, bring over pilgrims, bring them over, get more land. And then Hopkins Howell's fourth great-grandson had moved all the way down to North Carolina, which is not too far from here. How long is the drive from here? Yeah, not far. So him being in North Carolina doesn't mean like he left the whole area. You might just be buying land around. And so Edward Howell won that huge contest in North Carolina. The Loyalists were fighting. It wasn't clear which way North Carolina was going to go. But at a very significant battle, Edward Howell, the fourth great-grandson of Hopkins, that indentured servant, he won that battle. He was at the battle with the 1st North Carolina Regiment. He was a colonel. And because of that, all the Loyalists in North Carolina became dispirited, and it became an American state. The British didn't get established there. And then he went all the way up to Valley Forge, and in the next room, when you're leaving today, there's an artifact from Valley Forge. He was one of the 12,000 Americans that George Washington was visiting there. 2,000 died, and Edward Howell got sick. He's listed as sick at Valley Forge. But we here in Suffolk have our own American Revolutionary hero. I haven't seen anything in this place about him yet. You see, this is our common history. This indentured servant son who learned land ownership. And he had a son named Dempsey Howell. I just went to visit his property on my way here this morning. This is my first visit here, so I was so excited to see Dempsey Howell's property. Edward Howell gives to his son Dempsey these acres. And what does Dempsey do? Give it to his son. He gives it to his son. So in 1860, liberated African descent Virginians owned 60,000 acres of land in this county, which is the highest in property ownership in the country, with 92 families owning cultivated land, of which Dempsey Howell Hare is one of them. His mother, Sophia Hare, is of African descent, and his father was the Dempsey Hare I talked about, and his grandfather was the American Revolutionary hero. So Dempsey Howell Hare owns all this land, and the history of the Mount Sinai Baptist Church, which is right here, mentioned in their history that in 1860 he had already 363 acres. So he inherited from his father, Dempsey, 363 acres. He'd been following a history all the way back to that Ambrose Bennett, that little playboy, all the way through, and now we have this gentleman whose mother, Sophia Hare, he took her last name, and his father, Dempsey Howell, he took his first and middle name. Dempsey Howell Hare is a landowner. What does a person like that do at this moment in this city? Well, the first thing he did is church. Right? The first act of independence after the Civil War was to build churches. And Dempsey Howell Hare goes, come preach on my land. I got land, 363 acres. Mount Sinai Baptist Church went and started their church right on his land. I was there today. There's a little historic sign here that says that. You can literally go to this. And look at this church. This is not the typical church in Virginia. I've been to hundreds. I've never seen one like this. This is not like those. This is something special. These people had a little bit of cash. But he didn't just do that. He didn't just establish religion. He goes, and look at this, in 1871, he's at the Republican convention in this county, going, elect this person, let's go, rights, let's get voting, let's get rights, I want public school. He's in the middle of that. He's mentioned in the historical, he moved to proceed with the nomination of candidates. He's a person of great leadership. He's a landowner. He's a church builder. 10 years later, a European-American judge Judge Rawls appointed him to be the elector. Imagine that station he has in the eyes of the county. And who is Judge Rawls? Well, Judge Rawls was the one who, when they were trying to lynch this man, the only lynching in this city, nobody talks about it, I don't know why. It's quite an impressive story. He was lynched for making alcohol. Totally mindless. He didn't deserve to be lynched for that. Thousands of people make moonshine in their backyard. They shot him twice. They hung him. They kicked him 20 times. He took the thing off his thing, Isaac Jenkins. He took it off his neck. He walked 10 miles to Norfolk, and then the jail see him and going, oh my God, he might tell somebody what we did. They put him in jail after all that, and they on all these trumped up charges, and it was Judge Rawls who represented him and freed him. He actually won in the court of law. The one lynching victim of Suffolk survived. We have these 2 pictures of him.
He lived?
He lived. He lived. He lived thanks to this judge, who's the same judge who appointed Dempsey Hare. So this is a man of reputation. He's the only judge I've heard of in America who was against this kind of lynching, who actually took a position against it. Even almost everybody else just went along with it, right? He went against it. I mean, the president of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, even she said the people deserve to be lynched. This was the common refrain that everyone marched along in the South. They deserve to be lynched. It's because they did bad things. Nope. He didn't. He saved his life. And he appointed, so I'm just saying that to say that Mr. Dempsey Hare is a man of great reputation to be appointed as elector from all the people by this judge. He knows who's good, and he appointed him. So, when does he next enter the record? Look at this. Dempsey Hare bought 8 acres in 1897 for $70. What's he been doing this time? Has he been doing all these good things to help people? He's amassed 3,000 acres. That's the equivalent of a multi-millionaire. Dempsey Hare is the richest African descent American in Virginia. He has become extremely wealthy. He's taken what the Howells have been doing and he blew it up on steroids. He's got 3,000 acres. And here's how you can see it. He's just buying a little chunk here, a little chunk here, a little chunk here, right? This is literally him doing it. And this is a picture from this county of people harvesting what? The goober bean. Goober bean. Let's speak our Congo. Let's get our Congo language going. And let me just show you what 3,000 acres went. I visited Hare Road today. I drove this road because I had to drive his road. It's Hare Road. We're talking about Hare. I'm driving it. So I drove up and down this ring. This side has been vandalized. The Hare side's been taken down. This one still exists. I got the picture from that one. But just to show you, all that blue is 3,000 acres. So some of you who know this area, you know what that means. Route 649 to Route 58, massive amount of land. Multi-millionaire. This is what this guy has achieved from 360 he started with. That's an amazing accomplishment on top of being a leading citizen. Right? Like, this guy is impressive. So what does he do? Towards the end of his life, he sits on his porch. He goes to Norfolk and spends $500. That's a massive amount of money. You can't even imagine. To buy an 8-inch marble statue and an 8-inch marble kind of sarcophagus thing. And I wanted to go see this. I mean, this is amazing. In his will, he even said, I'm leaving $500 in my will to take care of this. He even built beautiful bushes and paths around it. Like, I wanted to see Dempsey Hare. I want to honor him. In his final will, he had said that, I leave you $500. Please take care of it forever. And here is his beautiful family. This is his son-in-law, right here, Meredith White. He lived together with his daughter right here in 1868. And Here's a daughter said in 1902 in the magazine, "My papa permitted my husband to visit me 2 years before marriage. I knew I was of African descent and Virginia laws wouldn't let me marry a European descent man." That's literally the law. It's illegal to marry across racial divides until the Lovings. I got married in Carolina County, so I could marry interracially, because that would have been illegal if not for the Lovings. And you can see they live side by side. The father, the church is there. The church is here, his property is here, and they're living side by side. He's dwelling number 335, dwelling 204 in this area called Holy Neck, which I drove in. It was just outside of Suffolk. It's part of Suffolk. It's just that way, southwest. So they've been living side by side. In the 1900 census, side by side. 1880 census, and by this point, he's got 8 grandkids going to church right beside his place with his daughter. All these people take his millions and carry African descent wealth forward like never before in America. Here's his beautiful granddaughter, Selena White Holland, one of 9 grandchildren. I got this photo from an anniversary they did here. They had a whole page on her in the church. This is the church that started on Dempsey Hare's property. So just like I showed you that first picture of the Bass family, now you got your first picture of the Howell family. So here's the beautiful Selena White Holland. I cut her husband out because he wasn't a relative. But right out that window, which I had opened specially for you, you can see this house. You see it? That's the house. 3 weeks before he dies, with no family present, no church present, no pastors present, he had his will rewritten. No one ever talked to him, no one ever saw him, and took all his millions of dollars away from the children. For him, right there. E. Holland. No preacher was there at his funeral. No family. No public reading of the will. Nobody ever got to even hear the will. Vast real estate stories go to the state's attorney general. He's former mayor of this town. He owns the courts. He owns every policeman. And to Dr. John Holland, his relative, nothing goes to my daughter. Buried, face down, legs the wrong direction. So if you believe, as most people in Suffolk believe, that this was all up and up, why was he face down, legs the wrong way? In 2026 now, we know what happened. He was robbed of millions, and his kids given nothing. Since 1641, the family had been building wealth, handing it to sons. Civil War, American Revolution heroes. And this guy takes it all away with no preacher, no family, no reading of the will, face down, feet wrong way, not towards Jesus. Cashing in. Listen to this. Constable Whitfield, that's of Suffolk, at Holland, Virginia, conducted what he believes to be one of the largest land sales, numbers of acres considered, that was ever held in Nansemond County. He was selling off some farms left by late Dempsey Hare, who was the largest landowner of farms in Nansemond County, European or African. 11 tracts were sold altogether. This guy was fleeced 3 weeks before his death with no public reading of the will, no family present. And look at him with his, I went to visit the cemetery today. Look at how nice his stone is. Mr. E. Holland, he used that wealth to become the first and only person from Suffolk to be in the Senate of the U.S. Congress. This man right here did that. Most powerful man in town, 3 weeks before he died, decided, I'm taking those millions. But how did the family react? And this is what's so important about this story. I don't say this to be a tragedy or to vilify this man. I say, when you look at your neighbors who are of African descent in town, and you saw that Bass family was able to hand land on, those English family. This guy was also an English family. He'd been English for generations. But you have to still go on. Even being the richest man in town doesn't protect you. So when you see them, and you say, why don't they pull themselves up by their bootstraps? I did it. My family came here as immigrants with nothing. Well, what if you're the richest man in Suffolk? and everything's taken from you, despite that. But despite that, here's his thing. Notice, Mr. Holland did not keep his word, didn't spend that $500 keeping the marble up there. Marble's gone. It just looks like a scrap. It's not even marked by anybody anymore. His grave still sits there, unmarked to this day. So if you tell me he was doing an up and up deal 3 weeks before, then why do you bury him backwards? Why isn't the marble still there? It wasn't anything up and up. In 2026, we can be honest. We don't have to pretend to speak in ancient ways. The church is right here. His property is there. His grave is there. But the daughter, how did Ira react to that robbery? Reinterred him and put him legs properly. That family still goes to that church to this day. They did not lose their faith in God. So when you see those people going to church and you don't understand their faith, this is what got them through it. Because they lost millions. So you see the family. They have to go on. Even if you're the rich, you can lose everything. But that's our common history. This is an English family, an American Revolutionary hero. So I just close with this. As a city, instead of living a rainbow story like in South Africa, where you live 3 separate stories, Nansemond, African, English, tell your common story. And you have this beautiful dismal swamp. Englishmen, like the Bass family, people of African descent, people of Nansemond descent, all took refuge in this swamp. So you have a great symbol of your common history in this swamp. So I would suggest to you to think about once a year or once a decade to make a pilgrimage. Take the roads over from here, walk through Holland Hare's property, and walk to that swamp and say, we all used to take refuge here. John Bass's family took refuge in there. Elizabeth, the Nansemond chief's daughter, the Princess Elizabeth, took refuge in there. And relatives of Sophia Hare, Dempsey Hare's mother's family, took refuge in there. That's a concrete symbol of your common history. So instead of always looking at it through different ways, there's actually things that bring us together, like these families we discussed. You can't separate them into this false notion of racialism, which was created in America after after this fight that we had in this area, where we created these words. But there's no reality to it. Everyone can do their DNA test today. It's $80. We all have a common mother in Africa 200,000 years ago, every one of us. We're literally all cousins. So why do you keep using black and white? Because somebody in Bacon's Rebellion decided, I'm going to separate you so you don't ever unite again? You're literally letting 60 and 70 thinking affect you in 2026. There is no black and white. We're one human race. These stories tell it. And if you start to look at history that way, you see Suffolk having a common history, not distinct histories. We're going to have a separate book for each group. We have one history. Let's fix Dempsey Hare's grave. Let's make, we can use some of the money from Mr. Holland to do it, maybe the sale of that property. But the whole point is not to vilify anybody. It's to say we all come together. We got here, we're eating that fruit that we all eat together. We're eating the Nagumbo bean, the goober bean. We love this. The city loves the goober bean. It's the perfect place to celebrate Kingdom of Congo, because you have the first African descent landowner here, Anthony Johnson. You have the first African descent victor in court. That's our history. That's the Suffolk's history. We love the peanut. So let's tell the champions of the peanuts, the Kingdom of Congo, who were here as an indentured servants, and they should have been go along like everybody else. He did his time as an indentured servant. He bought his land. He got his 250 acres. He should be as wealthy as everybody else who was here at that time. But of course, we know he wasn't, because we've forgotten our common history. So thank you for your time.
Are you taking any questions?
Yes, sure.
You are taking questions?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions?
So that Holland family, is that who the region of Suffolk now Holland is named after?
Probably. I mean, he was wealthy already, and he was the mayor of the town, and he got another millions of dollars. I wouldn't be surprised.
Any other questions for Lex? Going once? Twice? That's not, thank you so much for your thank you all again for coming to Afternoon Conversations. It's Tuesday, it's the second Tuesday of every month, right? Is that right? Am I getting that right? Okay. Second Tuesday of every month. The next is August 11th, and it is Mary Taylor, a daughter of the American Revolution, speaking about the Constantia House. Is that right, Graven? And if anybody know where the Constantia House is located in Suffolk? Anybody know where Baker Funeral Home is? On West Washington Street. It's right behind. But that's not where it was originally. Originally it was in Cedar Hill Cemetery, which was not Cedar Hill Cemetery at the time. But it burned down, and then it was rebuilt, and then it was moved by a Boy Scout troop from the Cedar Hill location to its current location behind Baker Funeral Home. Anyway, that is the speaker for next time. So we hope to see you again. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for your amazing and very informative shared and common history. I love a shared experience, so I like the whole common history situation. We do have snacks and drinks, so please feel free. And we hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Over a decade